I am again thankful to all news media outlets for letting me use their contents. I greatly appreciate that. I am available 24/7 if they need any assistance. Now go to the headlines. Hi and very warm welcome at Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
Tonight, the bottle text from that group chat about a U.S. military strike, the Atlantic magazine editor inadvertently included in a chat with top-level Trump administration officials, releasing more messages they sent, including the timing and weapons to be used in military strikes in Yemen. The Secretary of State calls the debacle a big mistake, as intelligence officials are grilled once again. And Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth speaking out as pressure mounts.
I know exactly what I'm doing.
Ring of fire in the Carolinas. Evacuation orders growing as massive flames close in on homes in Florida. And the rare severe weather threat in the Pacific Northwest as the south part of Texas braces for floods. Al Roker is here. President Trump announcing fresh auto tariffs, what it means for the price you'll pay for a new car. New video of a Tufts University student detained by ICE in broad daylight. As the DHS secretary tours a notorious prison in El Salvador, now housing migrants sent from the U.S. The Michigan couple imprisoned in Mexico, the duo meant to be on a dream vacation in Cancun, now trapped in a nightmare over a timeshare dispute. And Tom Yamas with our very own Vicky Wynn on her family's journey to America, struggles and triumph.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. There are major developments in the controversy over what Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth divulged in real time over the encrypted consumer messaging app Signal shortly before U.S. military strike operations commenced in Yemen. And now the Atlantic magazine has published what it reports are the text messages Hegseth shared with a chat group that included top intelligence officials and inadvertently the magazine's editor-in-chief. The administration, including Hegseth, still insisting the messages were not classified, a claim that led the Atlantic to publish the messages. Some, it reports, were sent as U.S. warplanes were moments from flying to their target. One message purported to have come from Hegseth reading, "Weather is favorable, just confirm we are go for mission launch." Another reading, 12:15 ET, F-18's launch, first strike package. Today, top intelligence officials faced a grilling by Democrats at the House Intelligence Committee as the calls for an investigation grow louder. Peter Alexander leads off our coverage.
Tonight's secret no more. The reporter who was mistakenly added to that group chat with top Trump national security officials releasing what he says are all of the messages exchanged. Among them, this from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, sent just 30 minutes before the U.S. struck Houthi targets in Yemen on March 15th, detailing exact times and the weapons to be used. Hegseth writing at 11:44 a.m. just confirmed with CENTCOM we are a go for mission launch, previewing that at 12:15 F-18s launch, the first strike package. At 1:45 strike drones launch, 2:10 more F-18s launch, and writing that 5 minutes later is when the first bombs will definitely drop. Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg releasing them after he says multiple officials said no classified information was sent on the encrypted commercial app Signal.
If the timing of a combat mission, an imminently launched combat mission, is not sensitive government information, I simply don't know what is.
They know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. You know who sees war plans? I see them. Every single day.
Late tonight, President Trump was asked if the administration is downplaying the chat.
I don't know about downplaying. The press upplays it. I think it's all a witch hunt.
With that, we bring in Paul Perez, National Border Patrol Council President, and Victor Avila, former ICE supervisory special agent. They have combined 39 years of experience in immigration enforcement. Gentlemen, great to have you with us. Paul Perez, let me start with you. What kind of impact do you think these deportations of MS-13 and TDA gang members, suspected gang members, will have on the presence of these groups here in the United States?
What we believe it's going to have is a deterrent effect. Number one, it's going to make them think twice about coming into our country, because if they get caught, there's the high possibility that they're going to be sent there to the prison in El Salvador, which is a place where they belong. That prison was built exactly to house those types of gangsters and criminals that have been creating havoc on the streets in El Salvador and doing the same thing here because of Biden's open borders policies. So it's a really, really good place for them to be, and we hope that it's going to send the deterrent effect.
Yeah, I mean, we remember the reports about crime in Venezuela dropping as a number of these individuals crossed the border and came here. Victor, with regard to the connection, we're talking about this Judge Boasberg who's saying that the use of this 1780s law to eject these individuals doesn't hold up because we're not at war with Venezuela. But you have said several times in our conversations that you believe that Maduro is pushing these gang members strategically into the United States. What evidence do you have of that?
Absolutely, Martha. I've been talking to a lot of my contacts, a lot of people in the intelligence community and others that have shared with me that connection, especially TDA experts that tell me that the Maduro regime is the one overseeing the TDA, the Tren de Aragua members in the U.S., and through the bigger cartel of Cartel de las Soles that I mentioned to you last time, the Cartel of the Suns. And so this connection, which also links the linkage between Venezuela and Iran. So this is a big issue, and this is where the national security issue comes from. And I believe that's why they were designated as terrorists. And remember that we don't just need this law, this act, to deport people. Immigration system has many, many other forms of removing people from this country. And I'm glad that El Salvador is accepting a lot of these individuals because a lot of them belong there, and not necessarily in this terrorist camp of the detention facility, but they're welcoming any other deportees to their country as well.
Yeah. What are you seeing at the... Breaking news this Wednesday night, the U.S. president's new punishing auto tariffs.
This is very modest.
How big a blow it will be to Canada's auto industry, already dealing with steel and aluminum tariffs. A 3-year-old mystery solved. The Indigenous woman murdered by a Winnipeg serial killer is finally identified. Alberta's premier fires back.
They want this lady in Alberta to just sit down and shut up.
Why she's defending a trip to Florida to appear at a fundraiser with a right-wing American podcaster.
It's remarkably dumb.
And a hockey trade you can't put a price on.
I thought the occasion was perfect to give it back.
A fan of the Montreal Canadiens' act of kindness towards a star player after his mother died of cancer.
National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We have breaking news about new tariffs just announced by the American president. Donald Trump is imposing a tariff on all automobiles brought into the U.S. He says he expects auto firms to relocate to the United States and build new plants there or expand existing ones.
What we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, it's absolutely no tariff.
Trump says they are permanent and will come into effect on April 2nd. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney, who is in the midst of campaigning as the new federal Liberal leader, calls it entirely unjustified and a direct attack on Canadian workers. All of this is injecting more uncertainty into the economy during the federal election campaign, and the auto industry and its employees are bracing for impact. Our coverage begins with Mackenzie Gray, who is covering Mark Carney's.
Good morning. Labour's spring statement leaves the economy on a knife edge.
Global instability and a gloomy growth forecast have overshadowed the Chancellor's big day.
More money in the pockets of working people. Higher
living standards promised by this Labour government, delivered by this Labour government.
Warnings 250,000 more people could be forced into poverty as Labour supporters accuse the government of forgetting its roots.
And so we did have to make a number of difficult decisions on tax and welfare and on spending in the budget. I think you can see through this spring statement how determined I am, how determined this government is to live within the means that we set ourselves in the budget.
Well, that's as the opposition accuses the Chancellor's spring statement of breaking election promises.
She said she wouldn't cut winter fuel payment, but she did. She said she wouldn't tax farmers, but she did. And she said she would not move to more than one fiscal event a year, and she just has.
The rise of bushmeat in Britain. Farmers unite to demand actions taken to stop the illegal smuggling of disease-ridden rat and lizard meat.
A cathedral in crisis. Unless £300,000 can be raised by the end of March, Peterborough Cathedral will struggle to keep its doors open.
Peterborough Cathedral in its hour of need. The community hub could close if action isn't taken.
Now, if you're 70 or above, watch out for a little known change to your driving licence. We're asking whether older drivers are unfairly targeted.
And in sport this morning, Emma Raducanu has lost to the world number 4, Jennifer Pegula, in the Miami Open. Arsenal's women overturned a 2-0 deficit to knock out Real Madrid. I'll get through this. Who are the Premier League's biggest earners? How much exactly do they make?
Hello there, good morning. We have a mixed bag of weather today, some rain but also some warm sunshine. To find out where this will be, stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
Breaking news tonight, the new auto tariffs just announced on all vehicles coming into the U.S. The detailed text messages at the heart of that stunning national security breach now made public, and what President Trump said late today, and the urgent search for 4 American soldiers lost in a training exercise overseas. First, the messages now revealed. The Atlantic magazine releasing the detailed text in that group chat of top American officials, outlining specific plans to hit terror targets using military jets, hours before the strikes in Yemen. A reporter inadvertently invited to join. Tonight, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth defiant. President Trump standing behind his national security team. Martha Raddatz in Washington. President Trump pushing forward with stiff new tariffs targeting the auto industry. Rachel Scott with late details just coming in. 4 American soldiers from Fort Stewart, Georgia, now missing after a training mission in Lithuania. The search efforts underway. Their 70-ton tracked vehicle found submerged in a body of water. The major Supreme Court ruling on so-called ghost guns, a 7-2 majority upholding a Biden-era regulation on the increasingly popular self-assembled firearms, which are mostly untraceable. Dangerous fire weather, 16 million Americans on alert, with red flag warnings from Georgia to Maryland. More evacuations ordered in the Carolinas. Ginger Z from the fire zone. The measles scare on a Northeast Amtrak train. Officials investigating whether a fully vaccinated person with a rare breakthrough infection may have exposed others. New details of the case against accused United Healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione and what prosecutors say the defense smuggled in his socks. The American couple jailed in Mexico after a dispute over a timeshare, why they could be held for months. And America Strong tonight, she encouraged him to pursue his dreams in the sky. Now their love story is reaching new heights.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir. From CBS News Headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois.
I'm John Dickerson.
The Secretary of Defense insists nobody was texting war plans.
And Pete Hegseth says, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Today, we learned exactly what he was doing in that chat in which the Trump National Security Team discussed plans for a U.S. attack on Yemen's Houthi rebels.
We know because the journalist who was accidentally invited into the chat released the text today.
Ed O'Keefe is at the White House, where earlier today they were still contending nothing Hegseth texted was classified. But Ed, did that change?
Well, here at the White House tonight, officials cannot rule out that someone might lose their job over all of this. That's because while the president and others are publicly downplaying the significance of it all, half a dozen national security officials across the government tell CBS News tonight that because the text messages included specific targets and weapon systems, they believe the information is classified. After initially withholding what he considered to be information too sensitive for publication, Atlantic Magazine editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg today shared it anyway. Why did you publish what you published?
Because on Tuesday, the President of the United States said there's nothing classified or sensitive in the emails, in the texts. I think people should see for themselves. They're saying nothing happened. I'm saying that this represents a serious breach in national security and communications. That's what journalism is for.
The new article revealed that on the morning of March 15th, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared with Vice President Vance and other senior officials the specific times F-18 fighter jets would launch to strike a target terrorist. Less than 2 hours later, Hegseth said, sea-based Tomahawks would be launched.
It sent a chill down my spine. I mean, I'm getting on my phone, sitting in a supermarket parking lot, a plan from the Secretary of Defense about an attack that's coming up in 2 hours.
Today, traveling in Hawaii, Hegseth once again defended his decision to send the texts.
There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
We showed the text messages today to Chuck Hagel, who served as President Obama's defense secretary and is a former Republican senator. So this is the screen grab of the texts that was published this morning. Put your defense secretary hat on for a second. If you read that, what is this information?
Good evening, I'm Jeff Bennett.
And I'm Amna Navaz. On the NewsHour tonight, top U.S. intelligence officials are questioned about newly revealed details from their group chat discussing U.S. military strikes.
The U.S. Supreme Court upholds a Biden-era regulation that aims to make so-called ghost guns easier to trace.
And 5 years on, Judy Woodruff sits down with two people with very different views of the COVID pandemic, the former director of the National Institutes of Health and a truck driver and podcast host.
Who do you believe? We, as a society, often put our trust in people who maybe haven't earned it, but have somehow acquired it.
Creative Types with Virginia Trioli, Tuesday on ABC and ABC iView.
Today, the opposition promises to slash the fuel excise in a $6 billion pre-election pledge. US President Donald Trump distances himself from the Signal group chat scandal involving top members of his administration.
Mike Waltz, I guess he said he claimed responsibility. I would imagine it had nothing to do with anyone else. It was Mike, I guess. I don't know. I was told it was Mike.
The death toll from South Korea's worst ever wildfires rises to at least 24. And major flood warnings issued in Queensland as heavy rain continues to drench the state. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ross Childs.
Good morning, I'm Oliver Farry, and this is Daybreak. European troops could be deployed to Ukraine in the event of a peace deal, says Emmanuel Macron, as he welcomes President Volodymyr Zelensky to the Elysee Palace ahead of a security summit that brings together some 30 leaders in Paris. France also unveiled €2 billion in aid for Ukraine.
Shares in automakers take a hit as Donald Trump announces 25% tariffs on all imported cars to take effect next Thursday. The move is condemned by Canada and the EU as bad for consumers and bad for business. We'll be speaking to Jamil Ahmed of GTC for a business roundup. Firefighters in South Korea struggle to contain the country's worst ever wildfires. 26 people have now died in the blazes. 37,000 have been forced from their homes as dry weather and high winds hamper efforts to fight the fires. And coming up in the press review, a German investigation shows that the private data of Trump officials in the Signal chat scandal was found online.
This is Asia Now.
It's 2 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 11:30 in New Delhi, and 1 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Grace Shin, and at this hour, wildfires raging in South Korea have doubled in size. Firefighters are struggling to contain the fast-spreading inferno, which have killed more than 20 people and displaced thousands. Japan warns of a significant impact on global trade after Donald Trump presses ahead with steep new tariffs on imported cars and parts. And China's Vice Premier Ding Sui-shang calls on governments to oppose trade protectionism in an address at the Boao Forum for Asia.
Good morning, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, so we've got the first in-depth overnight analysis of the spring statement, which paints a bleak picture for Britain's poorest.
The Chancellor joins us on the programme at 7:15.
It's Thursday, the 27th of March. An independent review of Rachel Reeves' spring statement shows living standards for the poorest in Britain will be falling over the next 5 years. New Trump tariff threatens to wipe out that hard-won headroom. Sky News understands the UK could retaliate with its own duties. Meanwhile, with more details emerging, Donald Trump's allies go on the attack over the Signal security breach with some choice language for one of our own colleagues.
Should the Defense Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? The UK?
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting.
And in sport, Emma Raducanu is out of the Miami Open after defeat in the quarterfinals. Well, good morning. There was only one story we could start with, really. The Chancellor's spring statement. Well, it's now clear.
Africa News. The news.
Niger's Junta Abdulrahman Tiani was officially sworn in on Wednesday as the country's president for a 5-year transitional period. Abdulrahman Tiani, the leader of Niger's junta, was officially sworn in as the country's president on Wednesday for a 5-year transitional period following a new charter that supersedes the existing constitution. The duration of the transition period is set for 60 months from the date of its promulgation. This duration is flexible depending on the country's security situation, the burden of the reform, and the agenda of the Confederation of the Sahel States. Tiani, a seasoned army officer, was also promoted to the rank of Army General, solidifying his authority since he led the military coup that ousted the elected government in June 2020.
The Sudanese army announced on Wednesday that it had recaptured Khartoum airport from the paramilitary rapid support forces, securing the facility. Military sources also revealed that troops had surrounded the RSF's last major stronghold in the Khartoum area, the Jebel Aulia region, from multiple directions. Since the conflict began,
Palestinians in a rage of public anger against Hamas. Hundreds of people took to the streets of northern Gaza on Wednesday, chanting "Out, Hamas, out." It was the latest protest against the militant group, which still rules. history is played across 6 countries. Just for Morocco, and much preparation work is centers that will create job opportunities for young people. Currently, there's a high demand for everything related to construction, public works, and the tourism sector. As one of the hosts of Spain, Portugal, the authorities are hoping that people
much of New Zealand highway, a field hockey trip for a group of teenaged Canadian girls took a dramatic turn. On Sunday morning, police say the driver of the van the girls were in attempted to pass another vehicle and hit an SUV head-on.
If people were not wearing their seatbelts, then I believe we'd be dealing with a fatality from this crash.
11 of the teens were hurt, 4 seriously, including 2 with spinal injuries. The players are traveling with a Vancouver-based field hockey academy run by Olympian Rob Short. In a statement, the academy says, "Our top priority is the health of the members of our team who were injured in the bus accident this week. We are doing everything possible to provide the support needed to the girls and the families involved." The academy's tour manager, Kelly Vanry, was the driver, and today she took responsibility, pleading guilty to 5 careless driving charges.
She was very remorseful. She has written letters of remorse to each of the victims involved in the crash.
Court documents show Vanry believed she had been clear and safe to pass. She's been ordered to pay a fine of $1,000 to each of the 4 victims and $1,500 to the other driver. Police say the most seriously injured girls, aged 15 and 17, face months of recovery. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.